Hey folks, thanks for tuning in for our Post-Unite content. My name is Oren Harris, and I'll be your host for the topic we're discussing today, which is around quality support for your app and building loyalty with your merchants. It's super important that as a developer, we're aware that providing great app support is absolutely crucial for building merchant loyalty as well as just overall success in the App Store. Today, we're going to get some of the tips and tricks and go over some of the best practices with some of the best and most successful apps in our ecosystem. I'd like to switch over to the live stream now. We have our amazing panelists. Hey guys. So I'd like to introduce first Aaron Waldler, CEO of Shopify App, Rianne Butler, CEO of Ventoff, Ben Moore, CEO of Pixel Union, and last but not least, Andy Cargill, CEO of Zapier. Welcome, guys. I'm glad we're able to all get together. We were planning on doing this at Unite on the stage, but due to the big power outage, we had to reschedule. But I'm glad we all got in the same room. So just to kick things off, I want to just kind of go around, maybe starting with, we'll start with Rianne, actually. Just maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, about your company, and since this is a topic of like support, what's like the most bizarre support question you've ever received from a merchant?
Okay, so my name's Rianne Beutler. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Ventoff. We're the creators of SEO Manager and Order Lookup. And I would have to say the most bizarre question, and we get asked like relatively frequently, is just, it's not a question, it's a statement. And the statement is, make me number one. And that's it, right? It's just like, it's an email and it just says, make me number one. And so you just assume like they're talking about Google and ranking, but that's, it's a demand, not so much of a question.
That's awesome.
We're talking like once a week.
Yeah. Andy?
Sorry, was that Ben or Andy?
Oh, I said Andy. Sorry, can you guys hear me okay?
Hey. So I'm Andy Cargill, the founder of Zapier. We created the store pickup and delivery app. I guess the most ridiculous questions we get is just one-liners like, it doesn't work. My store's entirely broke, and then no more information. So yeah, I think that's the worst.
And how often does it actually like relate to your app, or is it just like their store's broken and they're calling you?
Yeah, it doesn't often relate to the app. It's normally something like, I need to change my password. And we're like, well, the app doesn't have passwords. And so that's, what's that about?
Sorry, that was kind of a loaded question. Your app's awesome. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Ben?
I'm Ben Moore. I'm the CEO of Pixel Union. We've been active in Shopify since 2011. For a long time just with themes, but over the last couple of years, we got into services. So we're a Plus partner as well. And then most recently, we got into apps, which is last year. It was kind of a long time coming, but we had a lot of insight into merchants in the Shopify space, what their problems were, what we could help most with. And so it was kind of a no-brainer to get into apps. But, we've had support interactions with merchants across all of those channels. And so we have a pretty broad perspective, and we've seen some pretty funny stuff and some kind of make you want to go cry in a corner stuff. And we've kind of seen it all over the years. I think probably the weirdest, like we get a lot, like what Rianne said, we get a lot of, can you make me more successful? Or, not a lot, but every few months or a couple of weeks, you get somebody like, I want to sell more things. And that's kind of the extent of their outreach. And you're like, okay, well, we'd like to make that happen for you, but I don't know if it's within the realm of the possible. And another one is that we sometimes see is people just reaching out and all they say is, please make this free for me. So we have a paid app and they want us to just kind of make it free. And that's kind of the end of the support. So, I mean, that's kind of on one extreme, everything else in between. We actually have a lot of really positive interactions with merchants as well, and support's a big part of our like product research stuff. But yeah, you see some pretty funny stuff coming through.
Awesome. Aaron?
All right. So Aaron Wadler, CEO of ShopPad. I think we have 10 Shopify App Store apps now.
Wow.
And something like 60,000 Shopify merchants using them. So we have a pretty deep pool from which to select the most bizarre, request. But I think I've figured it out. So I always tell our customer success team to lead with empathy, right? If you don't understand why a merchant is asking for something, keep asking questions, right? They may not be asking the question in the right way. They might not be using the right terms. They might be kind of nervous and scared. So keep asking questions until you really understand what they're trying to get at. And so we had this one store from Italy who wrote in saying, I want to charge shoppers in Canada more. And so customer success says, well, why do you want to do this? Are you trying to, does it cost more for you to ship to Canadians? You could do that with Shopify's shipping rules. No, I just want to charge Canadians more. And so they went back and forth, and it's this whole long email thread that kind of became legendary here in our office, and just back and forth trying to ask every single question possible about why they wanted to charge Canadians more. Long story short, they just want to charge Canadians more. So this is sort of like a helpful tip to my Canadian friends. If you're shopping on an Italian store and buying some wonderful goods, use a proxy because somebody out there has it out for you.
That's a good one. And Aaron, you have a lot of apps in the App Store. How many apps do you have right now?
I think we have 10 and another 2 under development right now. So getting up there.
Wow, quite a bit. Well, thanks, guys, for diving in there. So let's just open it up a little bit. Just kind of like a more loosely based question. Maybe tell us just a little bit about your individual support structures, because we have kind of varying teams here. Some with smaller teams, some with bigger teams. So just overall, what does your team structure look like? How many people are handling support? What kind of systems are you using? Maybe let's start with Ben on that one.
Sure. I mean, like I said before, we have themes and apps that we're supporting. So that's a kind of, each of those, there's a lot of similarities between those two systems, but there are some differences as well. And overall, we have a support team of 7 people. And in the organization, we have a head of support. Sorry, Oren, were you going to say something? No.
No.
Sorry, we have our head. You had the mic up like you were about to say.
Oh, yeah.
We've got our head of support, and so everybody kind of answers to him, and that individual is responsible for training new support hires, making sure the way we communicate with merchants is consistent, making sure we find new systems or approaches to make support more efficient without sacrificing the quality of the support we give. I mean, we learned really early on that, like you said in the intro, or in the level of support you offer is directly correlated to your success in the marketplace. You have to support well. You've got to be high touch, and that's just part of the business. It's part of the investment you make in your future growth or future revenue. So that head of support looks after all that stuff. We've got 7 right now. We've got 1 more person coming in soon. And then we have everybody divided into themes and apps. And on the apps side, right now we just have 2 full-time people, and then others that are trained on the products and able to jump over if need be, depending on the season and whether or not there's a spike. There's kind of an owner. We use a sort of a product ownership model. So everybody on the support team has the product that they're principally responsible for. So they're kind of the number 1 line of defense. They're in our product management meetings. So they're learning about how the product is evolving, how we're iterating on it, what they can expect. They're the best versed and most intimately familiar with an app. And they're the number 1 owner. And they also kind of, we have little awards for people that have really good, that collect really good reviews because they've been getting really good support or things like that. And that ownership's been a big part of improving the overall we give.
Yeah, for sure. Just to touch on that a little bit more, just because for yourself, you're essentially the only one in this group that does both themes and apps as far as creating. maybe this is like kind of a broad question, but do you find there's a huge difference between supporting the themes that you've built compared to supporting your apps?
Yeah, there is for sure. And I think a lot of it might come down to when people are installing apps versus when they install themes, in light of the whole kind of merchant journey, like getting your online store set up from sort of sign up to sale. Themes often, themes come first. And so somebody, purchases a theme. There's a lot being invested emotionally by the merchant in that theme. That's the aspirational buy. I want my storefront to look like this theme, and they're invested really, really heavily. Whereas they might look at an app as more sort of an add-on utility. It isn't always. Often, the app might be the thing that ends up driving the most conversions for them in some cases. But at that moment, they're thinking of their theme as like the brick and mortar shop in their mind that they walk into and set up their products in. So there's a huge emotional baggage that comes with that. So we get a lot of, I guess the level of touch that we have to give to theme support is much, much higher than what we have to give to app support. App, it's often a technical issue, some kind of something that we can work out fairly quickly. People are happy, they go on their way. Whereas themes, the challenge is more to limit the amount of support we give so that we don't find ourselves setting up this person's store for them. You know what I mean? And doing that in a diplomatic way so they don't hate us for that. It's a bit of a trick.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Interesting trick, though. Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Let's go with Andy.
Hey, so there's just two of us in our team at the moment. So I got one full-time support guy and then myself, who's the coder developer. So all of our support requests go straight into Zendesk, was kind of our preferred platform to handle all the support requests. So Sam, my support guy, will first handle all of those, as many as he can, and then he will escalate them up to me if necessary. And we're over 2,000 merchants using the app now, and it's growing rapidly. So we're always trying to find ways to keep the team small. And so we spend a lot of time, every request that comes in, we catalog it, just in a simple Google Docs spreadsheet that says, okay, this one was related to, an issue with the theme and how our widget interacted with that, or the styling, or something to do with the pickup rules. And then I spend my time, or majority of it, trying to refine the UI, update the wording, write documentation, so then the customers can kind of self-support themselves, which really helps to minimize the amount of emails that we get. I think the onboarding process is where we've spent most of our time, and now with the Polaris updates, we're really hoping that that kind of framework and advice from you guys at Shopify is going to even cut down the amount of requests we get there for these initial installs. And then it's just the basic configuration we have to help with sometimes, and they're good to go from that point.
For sure. When you say onboarding process, do you mean like the onboarding process like built into the app itself, or like the process after?
So when a customer installs the app, it will do a number of things behind the scene, like update their theme to include our widget, where they can then choose to pick up or deliver. But then they need to add their pickup locations, and they need to configure what times of the days customers can come and pick up and collect. Maybe they need to update their email notifications. And I guess because we handle shipping, delivery, and pickups, there's the stores that come just wanting our delivery feature, or just want the pickup feature. So there's kind of different onboarding process for each one of those. And kind of where we're trying to take it next is if we know it's a florist that's installed it, then they've got a very similar set of requirements to every other florist, so we can kind of default a lot of values for them, which then makes that process, the initial setup, a lot smoother for them.
Awesome. Aaron, same question.
So we actually take what we call like the holistic approach to customer success. So support is one facet of customer success, which includes which includes onboarding, support, retention, and then because we have multiple apps, cross-selling is actually part of customer success's mandate here. I think we have 6 people that work on this, and we work they all are cross-trained across the different channels we have. So that's Help Scout for email. We have a whole phone system here for toll-free voice chat or voice calls during business hour. And then live chat, we use a service called UserLike for that. And then on the back-end systems, we use Asana for task management. So it's the same thing that engineering uses. So if I'm a customer success person on the front line, I can actually log into the same system, log a request or a bug that then can be tracked with the customer or customer's email that had the initial request. That'll go to engineering. They can follow up directly with the merchant, and then we can close the loop in the exact same system, pass it back to customer success so they can let the merchant know, hey, your feature that you requested has been added, or we fixed the bug that you encountered in a really nice way that nobody's falling through the cracks.
That's interesting. So do you find like having those different systems, like obviously that works for you because you guys have implemented that. Is there no like one size fits all kind of thing where there's like one application that just kind of does everything, or is it you guys kind of like piece this together to make it work for you?
Well, we really want to piece it together so it works for the merchant, right? So the majority of merchants want to write in via email, and that's great. So we have a system for them. Then there's a subset of who wants to write in via email that wants to talk via live chat. So we've developed solutions for them. And then still there's going to be a certain number that just want to pick up the phone and talk to somebody. So it's really just been listening to the merchants and what they want and how they want to communicate and how they want to get support. And then we're figuring out, trying to find the best solutions that are going to work for them, and then trying to make it all work within our infrastructure and our process.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Rianne, same question.
So our team is fairly small as well. There's 3 of us. There's Josh, who's the CEO, and he's also our CTO. And we also joke that he's like the janitor because he puts up the whiteboards. But we have him, we have me, and then we have our head of customer support. And basically it goes as such. Our head of customer support manages almost everything customer service related. And we have extensive workflows, some of which are automated, some of which we have recently gone through. Actually, we started going back through them last night because we're rolling out Polaris. So we want to make sure that we're on brand and on tone, and we have the right voice. So her and I sat down together last night for about 3 hours and started working through this new workflow that we are going to implement. And then, so she handles most everything. And then if there's a question that's very specific regarding SEO and it's more like a consultative question, we don't do managed services, but we used to, and that's my expertise. So sometimes those questions filter up to me. And then if it's a technical question or if there's a bug, that's going to go to Josh. Now, I also get on the phone with 3 to 5 merchants a week and have a chat with them regardless, and I'll reach out to them. And the reason I do that is to kind of keep a finger on the pulse of what our merchants are thinking and to see what challenges that they're coming up against. And last night, again, we noticed that merchants were having a challenge with one specific component, and we saw it a few times, and we had learned it. So we implemented it and deployed a change based off of that information. All that being said, at any given time, Josh or I may jump in the queue if we start getting bogged. Like we were featured the other week, our app was featured. So all of a sudden, we're getting on average about 50 to 70 emails a day. All of a sudden it's like 150. So we needed all hands on deck. And so last week, Josh and I jumped in there. So that's how our support is structured. We're going to be scaling it soon, but before we scale, we like to try to automate to keep our human capital as slim as possible and to maximize our product growth.
That's awesome. Thanks, Rianne. That's actually like a really good segue into the next question. So maybe actually you could lead and start the next question. Essentially, it's about automation. So like what are some of the like proactive measures you're taking to automate and to cut down on some of the processes and services around support?
So I think a lot of things can be automated. And I'll say that first, but I'm going to also kind of backtrack and say the challenge with automation is you start to sound like a robot, and our merchants are human beings who care about their businesses, right? So the way we go about automation is we look at what questions we get asked over and over and over, and then we use text expander. Well, we use a few things. When we have help scouts, we've got some canned emails, but second, we have text expander, which we can kind of like puzzle piece emails together using. And then I think it's important through all that automation to still keep a personal touch within it. So when we're doing text expander, we're building out this automated email. So we have a Drive document that's basically says, you know, what are our areas of opportunity that we get asked over and over and over, and then we build canning around that. But again, I think it is important while it's important to automate, it's also important to keep that human measure alive and well, so people don't feel like we're just sending that like canned email back to them, because I don't think that's a great experience either. So I think it's a balance of a human element plus automation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I used to use Text Expander a lot. It's one of my favorite tools for sure, so I definitely get that. But it can come off as like, you're just pasting the same thing over and over again. So definitely hear you there. You're still there. Sorry. Just the live stream cut out for a sec. Okay, we're good. Cool. So same question to Andy.
Yeah, so we use Text Expander as well. But yeah, it's really helpful.
Everyone does at this
mainly
point.
Just for, I mean, before we was doing like, the collaborators requests and that kind of thing. We've automated that now. So if we get a first email from a new customer that's just installed the app, then we know more than likely we're going to need to log into their store and figure out what's going on. So we automatically have this code that's been written that will log in to our partners panel at their store URL and get that invite sent. So that kind of cuts down on that initial email that we used to have to send, which would be, okay, we realize you've got a problem. We need to log in your store. We'll send you this. Make sure you click the approve button, blah, blah, blah. So we kind of take that one step out. But when that kind of thing happens 10, 15, 16 times a day or whatever, every day of the week, we managed to reduce a lot of the noise, I guess, in our inbox by automating stuff like that. But yeah, Text Expander is a huge help. I guess it just means that like me and my customer support guy can really write like standardized answers for specific bits, as you said, Rian, still keep it personal. But I think the quality of it, rather than you bashing out all the words really quickly just to get the email sent and get the response to them, you can use something that you've spent some time wording correctly and makes sense, and you reuse that, you know, and more than likely it's, you know, it's the same thing you need to tell the client, you know, go to this article, we've already got this wrote, use that guide. If you get stuck, you know, let us know. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Aaron, same question. How do you automate things, especially with a decently large team and 10 different apps?
Yeah, so we have some automation that's actually proactive. So it'll look for certain lifecycle events, whether it's an install or certain actions that people have or haven't taken with the app. And then we kind of have an optimal timeline that we're looking at. And if that customer isn't fitting into the timeline that we'd expect, a lot of times we have automation that'll reach out and prompt them or try and say, hey, it looks like you haven't advanced to step 2 of 3. How can we help? And so if they reply to that email, it goes right to customer success, and they can just jump right in, because a lot of times a merchant will kind of get confused or might have a little bit of a problem with something. And then they kind of just get scared, right? Or they sort of worry, or they feel like they're doing something wrong. And so, you know, we don't want to be overbearing with the automation that we do, that they see, but we try to be smart about it. So that's kind of half of the automation that we do. And then we have automation in the back end, largely tied to what we do with Help Scout. So Help Scout calls these workflows. And so some of the things are about just making sure, again, that nobody's falling through the cracks. So if we've sent an email to a merchant, we have certain workflows set up to make sure that if we don't hear back from them, that they're re-bumped up to the queue and we can reach out again. Hey, did you get the email that I sent 2 days ago? Just want to see, you know, did that advice work for you? Did you have any other questions? You know, sometimes they say, yep, that was perfect. Thanks so much. But sometimes they say, you know, I tried to follow it, but I didn't really understand this one word. And it just re-engages that conversation, and we can get them to being successful. Really helps with retention on our apps. And I think, you know, ultimately down the road, it drives a lot of the 5-star reviews that we get. because people are able to get started with the app, have a really great experience, get it up and running, delivering results for their store, and they haven't fallen off at any one of the places that kind of can happen with Shopify apps. So that's part of the automation we do on Help Scout. We also automate reviews. So every single person in the company receives a review anytime one of our apps gets a review, especially if it's a negative review. I'll get an email, at midnight, somebody saying, hey, it didn't work for my store, 1 star. And, I'm going to be awake. I'm going to, fire off an email to them right away. Hey, so sorry this didn't work for you. Let's get you sorted right now. And that's kind of the culture here is everybody wants to make sure that, merchants come first, that they're getting service and, everybody has complete visibility into what's happening with the merchants. Even people that aren't on customer success itself, myself, my co-founder, engineering, everybody will see those emails. And so it just really helps with the situational awareness at all times.
That's really cool. So everyone gets that email.
Everyone
gets
so
it.
In the office, it means everybody's phone goes off at the exact same time during the day.
Does anyone else have this set up in their system?
No, but I'm totally going to start doing it. It's a great idea.
It's great. We have something going into our Slack channel, but it's all reviews, not just the ones. Sorry, I like that idea. That's fantastic.
Oh, so you guys have it set up in your Slack channel? You have a bot in your Slack channel where reviews are just posted every single time, like negative or positive, so everyone can see them? Is that right? Oh, that's cool. That's a cool idea. Very cool. Yeah, I really liked your point, Aaron, on the proactive automation. I think that was really cool because that's something I think we're doing at Shopify quite a bit, just to try and nip things in the bud before it even becomes an issue, just to give the best quality support. So that's the fact that you guys are doing that. That's very cool. Cool. Yeah, Ben, same question.
Yeah, we use Help Scout as well. We actually use Help Scout and Intercom. So on the email side, we use Help Scout. So a lot of what Aaron's just described allows, we use some of those same automation tricks. And then, like Andy was saying, similar kind of thing there. We've put a lot of work into creating a knowledge base and updating and maintaining that so that it's not fully automated, although, as that knowledge base becomes more and more robust, and we can integrate with something like Intercom, which has a self-service feature. Help Scout has one as well, I believe. So I think right now we're debating which one to put in. But people will be able to self-serve, go through the knowledge base without having to go to a separate site, but right when they're in the app, in the middle of that experience. I won't repeat. We're using very similar kind of automation techniques, not the one that Aaron just mentioned about everybody getting that message, which I think we'll start using that. I will say though that for me anyway, I guess philosophically, the answer to a support isn't full automation. It's not like let's automate as much of this as we possibly can, and then the golden standard will be a purely automated system that allows us to kind of get humans out of the picture altogether. I think partially automated systems that help support limit the number of interactions that our human team does, and allows them to kind of focus on the higher touch or the higher urgency cases. That's really important. That human touch is, Rian was talking about that. It's super important, both for having the merchant feel like they're being well cared for, and that's gonna that feeling in them is going to reduce churn in the app. They're going to stick around for longer. They're going to upgrade. Maybe, they feel the more cared for they feel, the more loyal they're going to become to you, that you have their trust. That's going to come from those human interactions. Also, the reviews you get, those are more likely to come when people feel like they've had a one-to-one dialogue with somebody, on your team, because often those reviews are about the support person as much as they're about the app, right? So those are really important to your success in the marketplace. So you wouldn't want to lose out on that. And then the other side is support is very much the front line when it comes to user research for us. All the insight, the feedback, it's all coming through them from merchants who are using our app day to day, and an automated system, a purely automated system, isn't going to be able to collect that in the same way, and it's not going to know to dig a little bit deeper because this sounds kind of interesting, or this is a very, this is worth exploring. But a person is, and so they're going to gather that insight, and that insight is what's going to allow us to make better products or make the app that isn't in the marketplace yet that we now realize should be, or whatever. So yeah, automating is great for reducing some of the overhead, but the goal for me would never be to completely automate our systems.
For sure, yeah. Because I imagine, like, same as us, the value that comes out from those frontline conversations are, like, it's invaluable. We do the same thing here. Like, we have support of I think like 40% of our company now is support around. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, we get a lot of data from merchants and asking us for features and getting feedback and stuff like that. So yeah, I completely agree. And we're doing kind of the same kind of things as far as like automating processes, but never automating the full process, right? So I completely hear you there on that one, Ben. Let's get into more of a tough question. So this is all support. So this is dealing with merchants, dealing with people. I'm sure that a lot of the interactions are super pleasant and super helpful, but definitely there's some ones that aren't. So that's just human nature. So how have you, I guess, in the past dealt with rude or aggressive merchants that you thought maybe were being unreasonable? Let me start off with Aaron.
Okay, so 99% of the merchants that we talk to are awesome. Like, we're really just number. Incredible people doing inspiring things, and we're really lucky to just get to be a small part of their entrepreneurial journey. So that part aside, every once in a while you get somebody who's a little prickly to deal with. And so, like I said at the beginning of our live stream, I'm always coaching customer success to lead with empathy. Look, they may have a lot of money invested in this. They may be sort of overwhelmed by all the technology and all the different apps that they need in order to fulfill their vision and how different apps work. And it may come from not a place of like real anger or belligerence. It just might be that they're kind of scared by what they're doing, right? So try and put yourself in the shoes of a new entrepreneur on Shopify, just getting started. And so, sometimes it's tough. But we always try and employ the model of, it's water off a duck's back. Look, if these people are having a bad day, that's their problem. We're still going to do every single thing that we can to make them successful from our end. And some of the nastiest first emails that I think I've ever seen have actually turned into some of our most loyal customers at the end of the day, because they see we're on their side. We just want to help them. We're, committed to making them successful. And then they understand they can trust us. They understand that we're a company that's going to help them. They understand that, they're not working against us and we're not working against them. We're all on the same side here. In which case, we become a part of their success story, right? So we say, look, we get kind of through the initial issue or the initial app that they come to. And again, because we have multiple apps, usually we're able to recommend a couple others that are going to help them with, their goals or things that they can do to grow their business. And these people, they leave us glowing reviews, they send us free product, they tweet about us. Really nice things can come from some of the roughest initial encounters. So I'd encourage any app developer who gets those, take a breath, don't get angry about it, figure out how you can help them and what you can do to make them successful. Because I don't know that there's any truly evil people that have managed to set up a Shopify store. I think there's just people that are having bad days. And so if you can work through that, it can totally work to your benefit.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also sometimes like I feel like you do it in spite of that, right? Like it's almost like a personal challenge. Like you're upset and I'm going to take... So because I was in support at once upon a time and I always felt like I was pretty good. But, if there was someone who came in that was just like off the bat upset, it was almost like I wanted to go even further above to make their day better. Because it's just, provide that extra support. So that's really awesome.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Rianne, same question.
Okay, so I really like what Aaron has said a few times about leading with empathy, because that's what you should always start a conflict resolution path with, right? It is first you need to empathize with their challenge. And we are all entrepreneurs here. We've all been frustrated. So we do all know what it's like. And of course, we all have different approaches when we're upset. So empathize and then kill them with kindness. So make sure you're ultra kind all of the time. But it's important after you empathize to then really ask some open-ended questions about how you can solve, then repeat that back to them and then offer them a solve. And I find when you do that and you follow that pathway, you tend to be able to take a negative situation and turn it into a positive situation. So that's what I believe is the best way to handle a prickly customer. And oftentimes then they say, hey, you know what? I'm really sorry. I kind of came at you in the wrong way, because they realized somewhere along the way that maybe they weren't the most kind to you. And when you come back at them and you don't have a lot of attitude and you don't have a lot of ego, because we're app developers and we are helping people solve challenges in their Shopify store. So it's not, I don't like the thought of like, oh, we're app developers who are on a higher level than them. So we speak down to them. We're at their level. You put ego aside and they're just trying to be successful. And we do everything we can to help them achieve that goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Ben, same question.
Yeah, it sounds like we've all had very similar experiences, and kind of I think a lot of those solutions are going to be the same, right? The worst thing you could do when somebody comes at you like that is get defensive or turn the blame around, which I've seen people do. And I think your first instinct is to kind of protect what you've made, or protect your own honor or whatever, when you feel like an injustice is being served, because this isn't your fault, it's the platform's fault, or it's the theme's fault, not your app, or all these things, but they don't. And they're coming, like Aaron and Rand said, from a position of, I think, vulnerability. They're building their whole dream on the back of a bunch of other dreams, and that can be really scary. So you feel like you're constantly vulnerable to what the platform is doing, what the apps are doing, how the theme has been built, and whatever. So you have to kind of bear that in mind, kill them with kindness. I think too, a lot of the time, this is something we looked at several months ago. We were doing a bit of a support sort of State of the Union and looking at how do we diffuse those situations more quickly. And I think one of the things we caught on to was some people that's their first approach, right? They're pissed off, it's not working, their site is down or whatever, the app isn't working the way they want it to be. And so they send out to you, they don't know who they're sending it to. This is their first real interaction with you. And for all they know, they're basically writing to a void, or they're communicating with a robot or whatever. And so they come at it hard. And if you respond quickly and courteously, like if your response time is within the threshold of 30 minutes to an hour, and it's a very proactive, hey, so sorry to hear you're going through this. Here are a few questions. Help me understand more. We're going to get this sorted out for you right away. We found it diffuses it almost immediately. There are very few people that continue to kind of swing their axe after that first quick response, because the anger is coming from that feeling of vulnerability. They feel vulnerable because they don't know that someone's going to be there to help them through this, and they feel like they're leaving money on the table or whatever. And then you've just proven them wrong within a really short window. Yeah, don't worry, we're going to help you out. And immediately it's kind of diffused. So it's very rare that things escalate. When they do, though, for what it's worth, for us having that head of support, that's really handy, and it's kind of the oldest trick in the book in customer service, the manager, right? Like escalation to a manager, and for whatever reason that just totally works with people. Like they feel like now they're getting the primo treatment, and so somebody on the support team will say, listen, I understand you're really frustrated. I'm going to bring in my manager, and they're going to help out, and that often just switches the tone right there, because they feel like they're getting the top level at that point. So that's kind of a good fallback if someone's particularly prickly.
Huh, that's interesting. So you kind of put that in place just to have someone they can escalate to.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just so they can say that, can I talk to your manager now? You have someone just to kind of be there. That's great.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't even know what he manages other than that.
It does work though. It absolutely works. I mean, that's the first thing I do when I call like the companies I call, like my cell phone company, and immediately it's like, who can I speak to, right? So definitely agreed. But what you said, Ben, about the response time, I think is super interesting, because that's actually something that my team specifically is looking at quite a bit across the App Store. as far as support, just because I think that it's super important. I think that like in today's age of like instant gratification and just getting an answer right away, even if it's a probing question or something, I think it can immediately build trust. The other thing is because like Shopify support, we work really, really hard on our customer support. I think matching that, like the response times, from your guys and with that, is just an overall win. So it's an awesome point.
Hard though. It's
hard.
It's a hard win. I mean, like especially when a lot of the developers in the App Store are one and two person shops or 1 and 3 person shops, to actually provide that level of coverage. Yeah. Especially early on when apps aren't turning a ton of revenue and you're still betting on the future. It's a tricky thing to be able to do, but if you can invest in it, it pays dividends for sure. Yeah,
completely agree. Yeah. Cool. And last but not least, Andy.
Yeah, so I think we've been fairly lucky with the angry customers. There's only one that really springs to mind. We had a kind of 100% 5-star success rate on the reviews. And then I took my first holiday since the start of the app after like 2 years. And that Monday morning, we got our first 1-star review. And my colleague was trying to keep it from me to not let me know. But I just checked my emails on my phone and that was it. It was a disaster. So we tried to get in touch with the merchant to see what could be done. She didn't want to know. She was just like, your app's totally destroyed my life and everything. Not too sure how, because the issue was only there for about 30 minutes and it was a fairly low volume store. But anyway, so we was getting nowhere with her and I was like, what can we do? And so I ended up just, trying to, I guess, kill it with kindness. And we ended up actually shipping her a bouquet of flowers and some wine and chocolates. And I mean, she was only on our lowest tier package, which is like $19 a month. And this cost us about $200, but it was totally worth it. She didn't give us a 5-star in the end, of course, but she upgraded it to a 3-star. And I think her comments were just in the end. And we made some changes our end then to, to make sure that couldn't happen again on any other store. So it was valuable feedback from them. But we noticed a significant drop in installs just from that one review. And as soon as she changed it, they shot back up again. So it's hard. You want to please everybody, but some people just aren't going to be happy.
And of course, it happened right when you're going on vacation, right?
Yeah, it's typical. I kind of, you expect it, don't you? So, yeah, that's fine.
So, Oren, I forgot, I printed out actually one of my favorite versions of flipping somebody around here from a 1-star to a 5-star review. Can I share it real quick?
Absolutely, I love it. Go ahead.
Okay. So I won't. I'll just kind of read it as plainly as I can here. So far it sucks. So far it sucks. So far it sucks. It sucks. That's 30 characters. That's where we start.
Sorry, did they write that's 30 characters?
Yeah.
And so this is recent, right? Because we changed the character limit to 30 like a few months ago. 3 months ago. Okay, so it's decent.
Yeah. So that's where we started. Okay, that's pretty rough. But I'd like to share where we were able to get it and turn it around. And this is kind of like, this is sort of the theme of how all these go, right? Somebody starts in a really negative place, and then here's their follow-up review. After discussing my issues with tech support and getting awesome feedback from Annette, Annette's part of our customer success team, and getting additional information that I needed, and realizing my lack of knowledge, plus the complete and continued follow-up by Annette, I would give the ShopPad team an absolute A, and then 6 pluses. So A++++++. I would highly recommend this app for your store with 4 exclamation marks. So that's kind of a 180. And you can see, like, I think actually, in this case, the merchant was really self-aware of, hey, I didn't understand what was going on. And they're really, the potential is there. I would say, anytime you get a merchant who leaves you a bad review or writes in or has a negative comment, like, they want something, right? They want a good experience. It's your job to find a way to deliver it for them. And, 9 times out of 10 or even more, there's a way to do it. So look for that path.
That's awesome. That's so good. Thanks for putting that out. That's a really good example. Because I feel like sometimes people just they'll just go through every avenue, right? Like they'll go to your support page, they'll go to your email, then they'll go and write a negative review. Maybe sometimes even if they haven't used the app fully, if they just tried it out and they don't get it, they haven't asked for help, and then you have a negative review. But that's the opportunity, right? The opportunity is to then take that and switch it around. So yeah, that's a great example, Aaron. I think we're close to time. Maybe let's do one final question. Because, maybe just to sum everything up, we've talked a lot about different things in support right now. So what would be the future? Like, what's the next level? How are you planning to scale the support team, to automate some of the processes? What's like the overall future plan for you guys? And since, Aaron, you were doing so well there, how about we loop back into you?
Okay, so one of the big things that we're doing is trying to figure out how we can scale support. So right now, it takes like 4 or 6 months for us to take a new support customer success hire and get them the brain download that they need to be able to be really confident with all of our apps. And so that really limits how quickly we can bring on new people to our customer success team. So one of the things that we've been investing in the last 2-3 months is internal documentation. So all the common requests that come up, we have this database that then any of the customer success team can go, they can search, a lot of keywords that help them find the right article. It'll sort of describe the issue as the merchant reports it, a summary. So this is how we get engineering to be able to contribute without having to have dedicated engineers for support, by getting them to write these documents once. And so it's something that we do with customer success and engineer, and usually also a founder. Every single week we get together and try and write about 3 or 4 of these documents. And at this point, I think we have maybe 40 or so of them. And it's something that's going to kind of go on till the end of time, because I don't think we'll ever address all of the potential things that could come up. But it's a really great way for, first of all, everybody to be on the same page as we scale. We found when we got to a certain size, everybody in the room, we were always able to answer the question, but information was kind of segmented between different people. Somebody knew one part of, an app, and somebody knew a different part of another app. And so usually by communicating, we could get to the answer for the merchant, but everybody didn't see the whole picture. So these internal docs, I think, are going to be a big part of helping us lay the foundation to be able to scale customer success on our end.
That's awesome. We're doing something similar on my team right now, so that hits home for us. Are you using a tool for that, or is this something that you're just creating?
Yeah. So we're actually using Help Scouts. What do they call it? There's like a knowledge-based product that they have, and we can make them internal. So these are documents that are really written just for our team. So it's a lot of links, or try this, then that, and they kind of cross-reference each other. And they're sort of written in a different way than we have our public docs or knowledge base that we have for merchants to consume. But the nice thing about having it inside the email tool is it's all searchable right from when you're viewing a thread without having to open a different tab or switch around. So there's some kind of neat stuff we can do with helping just make that a smooth process for people on the customer support team.
Awesome. Let's go to Andy.
Yeah, so I think our next goal is, like I said earlier, is the Polaris kind of update to our UI and kind of restructuring that, because the app's kind of grown in the number of features and settings and that kind of thing over the past couple of years. And the user interface is just kind of a mess of switches and toggles and input fields. And I think it really requires sitting down, looking at that. We use a tool called Inspectlet. That will kind of record the interactions that the customers make within the app, so we can see where they're getting stuck, where they're getting frustrated, what they're not understanding. And I guess that's where we're going to streamline. We kind of want to fix all of those issues before we then take, I guess, another human on board to help with that, try and optimize what we've got, keep costs down, and yeah, that's the plan.
For sure, yeah. Keep it lean as long as you can, right?
Yeah.
How are the just to follow up on that? How are the Polaris implementations going? Slowly this end. There's a lot to think about, and
I guess I use a different JavaScript framework behind the scenes, so I'm kind of I really want to learn React and build it using the React components rather than just the standard HTML and CSS kind of
For sure.
set. So
yeah, it was also like, released not too long ago, so there's lots of time. But that's cool that you started building it.
But we hope within the next month we'll have the update and have it live. So
that's great. There you go. Yeah. Cool. Rhiannon, same question.
Okay, so the future for us is also Polaris, and
Polaris.
that goes across a few different things. First, so the day after Unite, Josh Hyland, my business partner, sat in his hotel room and just started cranking on our apps for the UI.
I can just see
so there's that, and with that, oh my gosh, right? So, but with that is the opportunity to then implement proactive measures or proactive things that we've been noticing that have been pain points that we're now able to address right now. So we're addressing the support challenges perhaps before they arise. Additionally, we're making all of our help documentation Polaris compliant, and we're adding more help documentation in Help Scout's knowledge base. But that's outbound facing, right? Customer facing. So we're making all of that Polaris compliant. So that way, when they go and they read Shopify help support docs and they come to us, it's the same voice. It has the same feel, and it's not like this jarring. Okay, SEO manager has a specific voice, order lookup has a specific voice, and then Shopify there's no discrepancy between them. So that's what I have been working on. Pretty much since we got home from Unite, is I'm working on the voice side of things within both help documentation and within the app. So Polaris for us is the future. And then we're eventually going to scale our support. Last year we almost hired a marketing person, and I had a moment, we're about to extend an offer. And I said, you know what? We're not going to continue to market. Why are we going to focus on marketing when we could scale support? Because there's no point in growing a product if we can't support it and give like rock star performance in terms of support. I would rather scale support first. So that's the goal by end of year, is to scale support by at least one, which I know might sound small, but with our workflows is reasonable to support our user base.
For sure. I mean, one's pretty big if, a team of 3. So.
For us, it's pretty, for us, it's pretty big, right? We're supporting 10,000 plus stores right now with 3 of us.
Yeah. That's
so, and really, in fairness, it's mostly Heidi, who's our head of support. And if you look at our reviews on SEO Manager, people call her out by name all of the time, which is awesome. They're like, Heidi's amazing. And every time it's like, yes, she's crushing it. So she's taking the lion's share of that. But eventually one has to assume that with that level of support, we have to scale, because a human being can only work so many hours in a day be good at their job, right? So we think one person to scale for support will be sufficient.
Yeah, maybe give her a little bit of a break. That's pretty crazy, though.
Yeah.
10,000.
Maybe she can go on vacation. Who knows?
Maybe, yeah. One can dream. All right. Thanks, Rhiannon. And last but not least, Ben.
The future for us, I guess. So last year, the big focus for us was improving the way we handled support. The systems we were using, the metrics we were kind of targeting for support in terms of turnaround time, all that. There's a lot of kind of internal focus, like how can we do support that merchant piece better. This year in the future is very much about how can we broaden support's influence in the company, and that's kind of how I'm describing it. So how do we look at support and the support team, but support as a function of sales, and how do we look at support as a function of customer success more broadly? Thinking back to the way Aaron described it, as more than just sort of helping solve the technical bug, but actually helping merchants succeed. And how can we look at support as a function of marketing? Where they're gathering insight, they're talking about even just telling marketing the things that merchants are really excited about in the products we make, so that marketing can capitalize on that excitement and talk about it more, do a better job of explaining it up front so that people know that it's there. And then support as a function of product. So what that looks like, it's still taking shape right now, but support is now in all of our product meetings and is expected to have a very loud voice at the table when it comes to setting out roadmap, giving feedback on some of the decisions we're making, basically voting in go or no go moments, right? Where we have to decide between feature A and feature B, or maintenance C. So it's that, but basically we kind of, I wouldn't say we underestimated support, but I think it's very easy, especially when you're very easy to view support as pure overhead. And it's just a cost that's eating away at your profits. And so let's make support as marginal as possible so that our margins, our profit margins are bigger. And it's such a mistake. Like Rian was just saying, I think that's great. You've got to make the investment to scale support before you do marketing, because if set up correctly, if you have them, better communication between the support team and the other units, and that's tricky. That's what we're working through right now. Like, how do we get people in support to gather that information and insight and distribute it to the rest of the team in a meaningful way so they actually hear it? But once you do that and have it set up, then it can become a huge asset. It's support / everything, as opposed to just support as this kind of locked away little group that's just there trailing behind the product, picking up the pieces, right? It's not the right outlook. So the future for us is figuring out how to blend support in with the rest of the team in all the day-to-day functions of us as a product company a lot more fluidly and fluently.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I love that you guys take that approach, that it's just, it's the opposite of a lot of companies, right? It's that support is super important, and let's think about that first, and get the knowledge from the customer or the merchant, to help build the rest of the product, right? It's super important. That's all the time we have, guys. I want to thank all of you guys for coming here. I know we could probably talk about this for like another 3 hours. It's a super interesting subject. Thanks again, and on the live stream, stay tuned for more content. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Ciao.